The Torah says, "V'ikchilit truma." Meis kol ish asher yidvenu liboy, tikcho ester masi. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to give a donation, to give something from ourselves to Him, kaviyachol. But what's the requirement? What's the shoirish? What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu really want from us? Me'ez kol ish asher yidvenu liboy. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants our hearts, our desire. Because in accordance with our desire, everything else will already play out. And so to have a pure heart, to have a heart that wants to give to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that in itself is the currency that will buy us, Asheras HaShechina, that will give us access to the intelligence that created life, to the ability to live in accordance with how the Creator envisioned life. And so the question becomes, how do we find the hearts to do so? Where do you find hearts that are ready for Asheras HaShechina? Because what is a Mishkan? The Mishkan, says the Pasuk, is Mishkan or Eidus. It's a witness. Say Chazal, what is the Mishkan Eidus for? It's Eidus li Yisrael, she'ashchina shriya b'eineim. The Asheras HaShechina in Klal Yisrael, that's what the Mishkan represents. The Mishkan represents that human beings can interact with something that's much bigger than them, that's much higher than them, that's much more powerful than them. Just like there's a difference between the intelligence of different animals, just like there's a difference between the intelligence of animals and the intelligence of human beings, so too there's a difference between the intelligence of a human being without Asheras HaShechina and the intelligence of a human being with Asheras HaShechina. Ad kedei kach that when the Gemara describes the difference between Adam and Chava in intelligence, it says that Chava, relative to Adam, was like a monkey compared to a man. And it doesn't stop there, it goes further, and we know Sarah Imenu was one of the most exemplary women to ever live. And the level of wisdom that she had was so big that it says that she was much bigger than Avram ben Neviah, and yet it says Sarah next to Chava, like a monkey compared to a man. And then it doesn't stop there, because the levels of intelligence available to the same bodies, to the bodies that we inhabit, are infinite. And different people get access to different levels, to different understandings, to different experiences, and we can't even compare the difference that such a movement can make, a movement in consciousness, a movement in intelligence. It is bigger than anything that could happen within a world, within a life. So our imagination can never imagine what our life can look like with deeper intelligence, with more understanding, to appreciate what it is that is happening to us. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He wants to have Asheras HaShechina, which means He has a specific level of awareness, a specific level of consciousness for which this world was designed. Under which level, if people fall below that level of wisdom, life starts becoming painful. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu's goal, just simply by the way that He created life, tells us that He doesn't want us to go lower than that level. He needs us to stay above that level. He needs us to stay in a place where life is not going to be suffering. And that all depends on how we interpret it. That all depends on how we lead life. We have the power to make life suffering. We have the power to make life pleasure. And so to have Ashras HaShechina means that Klal Yisrael is in a place where they can be authentically happy. And so, if not for the Egel, if not for the fact that Klal Yisrael was not at the appropriate level even then, the Mishkan wouldn't have been necessary. We wouldn't need an Eidus, we wouldn't need a witness to tell us that the Kadosh Baruch Hu lives inside of Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael would be the witness. The experience itself would be the witness. We wouldn't need any proof. We wouldn't need to externalize it, we wouldn't have to ritualize it, because we would be living it. But when we couldn't live it, then we had to find a way to carry it. We had to find a way to give it life even while it's not alive. We had to find a way to say a message that cannot really be said in words. And so the Mishkan was a Eidus, it was a witness saying, whatever it is you're experiencing, there's more. There's more. The way that you, a human being, lives inside of himself, the relationship between a neshama and a body, is what is demonstrated in the Mishkan. The whole Mishkan is set up to explain how does consciousness, how does something spiritual live in something physical. And so the Mishkan is a Mishkan of Eidus. It's Eidus that our lives are not simple lives. The things that we do are not simple. The Mishkan gives us Eidus, it gives witness, because it explains to us that there's a language within which people understood how this actually works and understood how to do it right. There's a right way to do this. And so, when we want to find that right way, when we want to become a Mishkan, like the Pasuk says, Bilvavi Mishkan Evnal, build a Mishkan for HaKadosh Baruch Hu within my heart. How am I going to do that? I'm going to have nidva slave. I'm going to give my desire, I'm going to give my will to creating a better reality for the one who created life. That's ultimately what he wants from us. He wants us to align our will, align our desire with his desire. What is his desire? That this should work out. That we should be able to see and experience the things that he wants to share with us. And that's why all the Nevi'im, they're always saying how happy HaKadosh Baruch Hu is when Klal Yisrael can have pleasure, and how sad HaKadosh Baruch Hu is when Klal Yisrael has to be in pain. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu's desire is to make us happy. So when we align with his desire, we're not aligning with something difficult. The only difference that might be between our desire and his desire is that we just look at ourselves as individuals. He looks at us as one unit of many. And therefore, we have to align with his desire that it should be good for everyone, not just for ourselves. And aligning with that desire means aligning with those behaviors, making this the source of how we decide, the source of how we interact, so that all the other parts of us can take second place, because they can be as important as the desire to do the right thing that's right in the eyes of the Creator, that's right in the eyes of whoever created life. And so the Mishkan gets built from the different metals and different material, and all of them are describing things within our lives, midas, ways of behavior within our lives, that we would have to give, that we would have to be able to utilize in the appropriate way in order to build a Mishkan, in order to build the potential for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to send His presence within the hearts of human beings. When human beings can't live in a place or in a way where they can find peace, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light cannot shine into their hearts. They cannot feel and appreciate the experience that's happening to them. And when they don't experience it appropriately, they don't have the energy to do it appropriately. And that just becomes a vicious cycle. That just becomes a place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't enter, because there's so much frustration. There's so much disappointment that a heart like that doesn't get inspired easily. It doesn't see the beauty of life anymore. It doesn't recognize the importance of human interactions, the words that we use, and the feelings that we demonstrate, and the realities that we build within our own minds and within the minds of the people around us. And so our character traits, our behaviors, have to demonstrate our deepest desire to allow HaKadosh Baruch Hu to live in this world. Allowing HaKadosh Baruch Hu to live in this world means that we create an atmosphere of community, of working together, of love, of understanding, of forgiveness, so that the people around us can relax, can live their lives, can fulfill their potential, can have the courage to be whoever it is HaKadosh Baruch Hu created them to be. And so our relationship should be such that we provide support, that we provide strength, that we provide comfort. Because the world needs desperately sources of these very rare commodities. People are not giving them out freely for whatever reason. That's the culture. That's the way we're used to. We're very stingy when it comes to giving out strength, giving out comfort. And so we have to manually overcome those habits, because this is something that the world needs. This is something that people need. This is something that causes them to have the energy to continue being themselves better. And so this is what it means when it says to make a truma for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want us to give in a way that we're looking for somebody else to build. Like we're giving the job over. I'll give you money and you go do whatever you want to do. To build for HaKadosh Baruch Hu means that we're going at it from the heart. We're doing it with Nedivas Halev. Nedivas Halev means that we sincerely understand the importance of what's being spoken about. The more we understand the importance, the more our heart is involved. The more our heart will sincerely try to change its habits in order to perform in accordance with this plan, in accordance with this understanding that there could be something different, something better, if we'll allow it in, if we'll allow the environment to become clean enough and calm enough and happy enough so that that type of a spirit can live in that environment. And that's what it means to have a Mishkan. The Mishkan is just a Edus. But what is it an Edus upon? It's an Edus upon the people. It's an Edus upon the Neshamas. It's an Edus about the nature of who we are and the potential of what's possible. And it's not possible in a supernatural way. It's possible because this is our nature. Because if we don't have this, then we don't feel right. Because as long as we don't have it, then we're missing something. And something won't be settled. Something won't feel completely at ease. And this is the nature of a galus. The nature of a galus means that something is not right. We don't have a Mishkan. We don't have a Edus. We've forgotten. And so we have to wake up and understand the importance. This is not as important as other things in life. This is a whole different level of importance. This is a whole different level of real. This is a whole different level of permanent. And the goal is that the desire becomes so big that everything else loses importance completely. And that's why Yiras Hashem Tahora Medes Load. Yiras Hashem Tahora means that a person is so afraid to offend the truth, to offend what's real, to offend the one that created life, that all the other fears just vanish from his mind. He cannot be afraid of people. He cannot be afraid of circumstances, because that would be offending his relationship with the one who created him. That would be reducing his potential. That would be limiting the amount of himself he's going to give to the world. And so the appropriate fear will remove any other fears. And that person, the fear that he feels from offending the one that created him, is his source of happiness, is his source of closeness, is his source of recognizing how important this experience really is, how meaningful. Even though our brains are so small and limited in the sense that they don't understand how precious every moment is, but we can know it. We can remember it even while we're not feeling it. Because if we do the math, if we realize how limited and how short our experience is, then we'll realize that every piece of it, every part of it, every day of it, every minute of it is precious, is important, is meaningful, is everything. While it's happening, it's everything. Because this is everything. This is what we get from this experience, is that we go through it and we do our part, we perform, we create, we manifest, and then this is all that we did. This is everything. At some point, it's just going to be all of it. And so we want to do it right. We want to do right for ourselves. We want to do right for our neshamas. We want to do it right for the one who created us. We want to be able to achieve while we're here. It's a big deal. It's much bigger than anything in life. It's much bigger than all the people's opinions. Even if 8 billion people will have an opinion, being straight with the one who created us is much more powerful than that. And so, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as big as he is, he's looking to us. He's playing with us as if we're equals. And he's asking from us nicely. You know, just give me your heart. Just surrender to what I already created. I already created it. You have all kinds of opinions about it. But I already created it this way. It's already here. It's already happening. And so allow for us to have a relationship. Open up your heart to us having a relationship. Because I have a plan that you can't imagine. I know stuff that you don't know. I created life in a way that is beyond what man can understand. And so man has to surrender to life. Life will never surrender to man. Man, the human mind, has to come back from its hallucination and realize that it is part of a body, of an organism that has a way how it works. We can't simply decide what we want and get it. There's a nature of how Hashem created life, and we have to figure out how to comply with that nature. And that's the source of wisdom. Wisdom is being able to live within what already is without getting hurt. And so HaKadosh Baruch Hu is asking us to allow Him into our hearts, to allow His light, to allow His understanding, and say, you know what, even if in my calculation life doesn't make sense, even if in my calculation it shouldn't have been this way, let me allow the one who created my brain to do the thinking, and I'm just going to trust that He knows what He's doing. Because we're certainly not going to outthink the one who created us. And we're certainly not going to change what's real just because we don't like it. And so to make a Mishkan for HaKadosh Baruch Hu means to elevate reality to a place where whatever reality gives us becomes holy to us. Whatever reality gives us becomes purposeful. Whatever reality gives us becomes the only thing that we want. Because that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose. That's what reality chose. That's what came. That's what happened. That's the way that it is. That's the only option we have. There is no other option other than the realities that we're handed as we are handed them. And when we go looking for other options, then we just lose sight of reality. We close our hearts. Then we're not there. We're in denial of what is. And so then, in a place like that, we can build the Mishkan for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because a place like that doesn't exist. It's just in the mind, an illusion of a place that never happened and never will happen. And so we have to build a Mishkan for HaKadosh Baruch Hu only in what's real, only in what is, only in what He created already. We have to constantly reconcile with reality and recalibrate our minds so that we don't steer away into a land that doesn't exist, into a world that we make up. Because that's not a place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu can live. That's not a place where HaKadosh Baruch Hu can reside, and that's not a place where our heart can ultimately find peace. It's only a matter of time until our illusion will collide with reality. And then we're in for a rude awakening. And so we have to build our perceptions, we have to build our approach on real material and what HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided life to be. And what HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided life to be is so much better than anything that we can imagine, as we can see by the people who actually lived in times where life could be appreciated, where life was understood. And they had an experience that currently nobody can even imagine. We don't even have the attention span that's long enough to imagine something so real. And so there are ways of understanding who we are, there are ways of interacting with who we are that can make a real difference to our experience, that can elevate us from living a life of misery, from just trying to survive and get through the day, to actually having the energy and the desire to thank and to sing to the one that created us. And this is the difference of living in a time of Golus and living in a time of Geula, living in a time where people know what people are, where people know how to interact with people, how to create an environment that's healthy for the human nervous system, and living in a time where people are just at each other, where everybody's trying to grab for themselves and nobody has any rest and any peace. And so when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, create an environment for me, for who are we talking about? What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want? He just wants us happy. That's His environment. To have a Mishkan means that Klal Yisrael should be Kish Echad B'Lev Echad. That's the environment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu enjoys. It happens to be the environment that we enjoy. It's a win-win. It's good for everybody. But we forget. We get busy with our individual concerns, and then we forget other people. We forget the power of the words that we inflict on others. And so, we should all be Zoicha HaKadosh Baruch Hu should allow us the wisdom to open our hearts and to be able to make a place for Asheras HaShechina inside of us, because we most certainly will enjoy ourselves more in that state than in whatever state we're occupying currently. And if we can go in there, then we'll be Zoicha to the Gula Shlema of Meher B'Yameinu.
And you said about Sarah and Chava. Who's the animal and who's the person? I don't get that.
Chava is the person in that sense, because Chava was still created by the divine, and Sarah was created by people. So Chava was still way ahead of Sarah, but compared to Adam, she was so much smaller, she was so much less.
I thought she was more because she was made from Adam and not from dirt.
Well, he was made completely by the divine force, and she had a little bit of him, which makes her already smaller. Everything that goes through somebody else gets a little bit less light than when you go directly to source. So Adam was like directly from source, everything from source. And then Chava was a portion already from something that's beyond source. So this is what Chazal say. Chazal say that compared to Adam's intelligence, Chava was much less, but Chava was still way ahead of anybody else that was born later. And even within those, there's so many gaps that when we come to us, like I don't know, I don't even know if we'd register on like as an intelligent species at all at this point.
So is that what you learn about also now? Like females are in a lower level than the male?
No, this has nothing to do with.
The example of Adam and Chava, is it that the example of?
I don't think it has anything to do with males or females that came afterwards. This has strictly to do with those specific people.
So much of what you're saying is like so not what is presented to us in whatever Haredi or whatever world we're in. It's just like, yeah.
Well, it aligns with the information, it's just not emphasized for whatever reason. And it could be, one of the reasons is that it's a burden to admit that every Yiddish neshama has to be treated like you would treat Kaviyachal Hashem himself. So if we tell you that you're very important, then how do we have to behave towards you afterwards? Understand? So it would be very difficult for people to try to control other people while they tell those people that they are very, very important. Understand? So that could be a dilemma, because we do have a big obligation to each other, and people are not admitting to that. They're so offended by the way they've been treated that they just want to think that they should take care of themselves and they don't have any obligations. And to a certain degree, it's hard today to get involved with other people because everybody's on their own level, and what's acceptable to some people is totally not acceptable to other people. But ultimately, we have a very big responsibility towards each other because we create each other's lives. You know, it's a big deal. All the characters in our lives are played by people, real people. And those people can cause our life to be very nice, or they can cause all kinds of different lives to happen to us. You know, so it's a big responsibility. So not everybody will be willing to admit that in truth, we all deserve top-notch service. We all should be treated like B'nai Melachim and B'nois Melachim, you know. it's a big, big responsibility.
So you said HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be happy, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we see that mitzvahs are supposed to be done, but not at the expense of a person's well-being, right?
In general, yeah.
So, for example, Shabbos, you're allowed to break Shabbos in order to
Save
save a life.
yes.
You can eat pig if you want, if it's going to be saving a life, right? So, what I don't understand is, at the same time, if you break Shabbos, we're going to kill you. So, how can the same God that says, no, if your life's at risk, break Shabbos, break my Torah, but if you break Shabbos, I'm going to kill you. That doesn't seem to stem, like it doesn't go.
Right. So that's good. You see, if you have that relationship with the Creator, you would know that something is hiding behind this. There's something deeper over here. And we see that the goal wasn't to kill people, obviously. The idea was to deliver a message, and that message was written in a way where it can also be used to people who don't understand, to guide them and to keep them behaving in a way where life can go on. And for the people who are more sensitive, for the people who are more deeply searching for the truth, they'll have an entirely different experience with the same text, with the same ideas, with the same mitzvahs. So there's like a hierarchy of meaning within the Torah, so that it depends on the individual that's reading it. To one person, it means one thing. To another person, he understands it more deeply, and it means something else. So for example, the concept of Shabbos. So Shabbos is, in the Zohar is brought that it represents the heart. Because we have like 6 big limbs that comprise the body, and the heart is like giving life to all of them. That's why we always say that from Shabbos comes the koich for the whole week, and all the brachas of the week depend on Shabbos, because everything, all the limbs, all the organs operate based on the heart. So if a person violates the heart, then he has spiritual death. He can't have an appropriate experience if he doesn't believe that a human heart is kodesh, is something holy, something divine. And so on that level, when you say mechaleleu mos yimas, it simply means an observation of fact. If you're mechalel your heart, if you're mechalel Shabbos, if you think that human existence is meaningless, then you instantly have no access to the spiritual realm. You've been cut off. And so that's the deeper representative of the same pasuk. Now, when a mishpat would come, like Rebbe Akiva says, if he was in the Sanhedrin, then nobody would ever get killed in his Sanhedrin, because he would make sure that he would check the Edom in such a way that they would always be possible. Meaning the goal was not obviously to kill anybody, but the language was there in order to create a certain truth, and the deep truth is the real truth, and from there the leaders knew how to interpret the simple truth in order to make it work with the situation.
So the short answer is we don't know what that means.
You can call it that.
I mean,
If you could only, you recorded this, because if you could show every person who's off the derech, like that, like last thing you were just saying, I think a lot of people go back on the derech. Seriously.
Well, what they need is the environment. It's not enough to have information. What we need is an environment where you can actually live a type of life that makes some kind of sense. So it's good to have information, obviously, because that will give us the ability to go in the right direction. But we won't experience it, and it won't be fully welcoming to others if it's not something that you can live in, that you can really participate with your entire being. Only then does it really become real. Only then do we actually get the full experience where we can actually know what that's like. So yeah, I mean, it's a good start.
So when we speak about the potential,
Yeah.
so we're discussing that we're not able to access that potential, but that potential is obviously constantly there. It's not something that's separate. It's there, but it's it's
Well, when it comes to potential, there's the vessel and there's the light. The light, for example, in any given moment, there's the vessel, there's the body, there's the chemicals that are creating the scenario within the brain, and then there's the consciousness that resides within that actually perceives itself. And so, as far as the light is concerned, we all have the infinite potential available. But when it comes to the vessel, some of our vessels have been through all kinds of feelings and emotions that are contrary to what we're trying to achieve, and so that has an effect on the vessel. It has an effect on the heart and the brain, on the lungs, on the kidneys. So these are real realities as far as the vessel is concerned, for how much light and how is the light going to be able to reside within that vessel. So as far as that's concerned, we need development. We need process of evolving that part of us, becoming more aware of the more subtle side of life, and learning how to interact with our emotions, with our feelings, with what we think life should be, to be able to repair our vessel so that we can achieve more light. Yeah, so all process is relating to vessels, because light is always available infinitely.